Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. How does, we've hit this quite a bit, but I'll let you go a little deeper. How does individual skill development work into your daily practice, especially because you run this free-flowing attacking offense?
Yeah, so player development is really everything to us. It's a huge part of our recruiting pitch. Not even just to high schoolers, but also transfers. Like we recruited a few grad transfers this year who have 1 year left, and that was one of the first things we said to them is like, we want this year to be your best year and the year you've had the most growth. You know, we have no interest in you just kind of coming in here, throwing in the towel for 1 year, playing well and leaving. We want to be maximizing your skill, and so. Again, that comes back to enjoyment, right? Of like, you enjoy every day if you know you're getting better. And so the way that we break it down in our program, we're very fortunate with a larger staff, is each coach kind of has a position group. And really that's just a cheap way for us to break down who works with who. Again, we are basically positionless outside
your
of
twos, threes, and fours with those coaches are probably doing similar things.
100%, and really even similar stuff that maybe the point guards are doing as well. But you know, regardless, within those groups, we do a handful of things. Number one, we do about 20 minutes of small group skill work before each practice on a normal day. We also do a film review with those guys, and so that's just a really helpful way for us to have some touch points. Some of those questions I spoke about earlier and helping the players grow to learn to love it, like we can be asking in those meetings. We check up on academics in there as well. So player development really, the way we structure it, allows us to have a lot more development even outside of the floor.
I like that.
So basically, that's kind of how we have it structured. That's when we work on it, but then we're really aligned as a staff in regard to what we're teaching, how we're teaching, and why we're teaching. So like literally right here to my left, I have a one piece of paper that has every single skill we teach, every single element of our offense, every single drill that we teach, all on one spot. That way we can, again, same teaching points, one band, one sound, we can be aligned.
Man, that's
and
good.
it's going to be a thing where, you know, potentially we can even rotate players and they're not going to be being told something different or whatever. And really the reason we do that more than anything is so that we can be really good at the things that happen a lot within how we play. So I think if I could tell coaches to do anything, it would be number one, like develop a curriculum of what you teach, how you teach it, and why you teach it. So that would be the three parts to that. And the other one would be figure out a set program or rhythm that can be a part of your everyday life of your program. For us, it's just those small groups. So that's what like individual development would look like. But then it's also a huge part of just how we practice. You know, I mentioned again, trying to practice in a way that's fun, a way that's enjoyable, a way that's working on the things that matter. Player development's everything. You know, that we had a really rough year here this past year from a wins and losses standpoint. It was our first year in the program. And we did have a lot of player growth that was great. Our depth wasn't quite where it needed to be, but that was one of the things we just kept saying as a staff is like, we're going to be good when we're good, and there's no shortcut there. So let's keep kind of chopping away and hammering home.
I love that. That's good.
These things that we believe in, and not try to find some quick fix. Because again, ultimately, those quick fixes stunt your players' long-term growth. They're not as enjoyable. And so I think player development is something that we have fully committed to, we're fully bought into, and it's 100% necessary for us to excel in order to have success and results on the court. But again, a lot of that comes from just a desire as a staff to help our players grow and be their best, and to graduate from our program feeling like every single ounce of their potential and ability we were able to pull out of them, and they're leaving loving it. And so that's kind of how we approach it.
One big takeaway for me with what she said was that player development or skill development isn't just on the floor. Like it's in those small group meetings with coaches, or you know. And I think it's important for us to, like we've kind of been talking this whole time. It's got to be more than just basketball. The why behind what you're doing. Question for you. So with skill development, I think when people maybe, and coaches my age, maybe a little bit older too, that when they hear skill development, they think two ball, med ball, cones, foam roll, you know, all the things that are out there. I will say, I'm a fan of a lot of those things if it's taught with the game, if there's a game connector with it, because at the level that I'm at with you know, I find that they help players know the why or connect things physically quicker. But there's a large group of people that if it's not a part of the actual game, we don't want to do it.
Right.
What's your blend with that, or are you really one way or the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as I've grown, I've probably become a little more in the middle. Um, again, I think for us, our desire is to be faithful to what matters and to work on things that are going to have a ton of carryover. And so we do want decision making to be a large part of what we do. We want a lot of our drills to reflect the reads, the spacing, the decisions we're going to make within our offense. And again, that's a luxury we have because we've been doing it as a staff united for a long period of time. We kind of have that alignment. I think there is 100% a time and a place for doing things outside of that, even just from the standpoint of it being different and that helping the player have a new challenge or enjoy something and it not becoming monotonous and routine.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I think if anyone on our staff heard me say that, they would laugh because like I'm always the person who's like stick to the plan,
So
do the
this
same
is
thing every
stretching you a
day.
little bit. This
Um,
is
but
stretching you.
but 100%, I think there's so much value, and I've seen from our head coach on down of just I think today they need something different. And if that means we're doing two ball dribbling, great. If that means that they're doing a shooting drill where there's not a decision to shoot, okay, no problem whatsoever. I think if those things can be fun, enjoyable, if it can stoke their love for the game, and if it can help them, for the long run, I'm all for it. And so
But
I
it's
would
a
say,
balance, though. I mean,
100%.
the balance is what's important because you can go so far that way to where there's no there's no connector at all to how you play and what you do. But
Hmm.
then high school, I find too, like with this idea of viewing high school players as they actually have two seasons now. They have their
Right.
school season and then they have their select season. And those many times are two different voices, different styles. And so I found it helpful for me in our spring, besides weights, besides shots, besides yoga, and maybe
Hmm.
some pickup so that they can actually have fun and have a laboratory to experiment in because it's all structure, structure, structure.
Totally.
Besides all that, how can I teach them skills or ways with the ball in their hand that will help them in whatever they're doing out there? I don't know. That's the balance I'm trying to find, but I don't know if I'm great at
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, and I think part of that too, a big reason why we do things the way that we do, again, like we're doing skill development every single day, and if it's not connected to the reads of our offense and how we play, you're just going to run out of stuff really quick. Like,
Yeah.
especially for us at college, like you've got a girl who's been playing the game since she's 5, so she's been playing for 13 years. Like, you're not going to show her a shooting drill or a ball handling routine she hasn't done before, probably, and so you're just very quickly going to lose them if that's all you're doing. If you're working on dribbling for the sake of dribbling, or passing for the sake of passing, or shooting for the sake of shooting, where we find a lot of our return on investment and skill development is making better reads and decisions within how we play. Part of that is equipping them with the physical skills to complete those. Part of it is helping them mentally with the decision skills. And so, again, I would say 85% of what we do is tied to it, is structured. But again, I think there's absolutely a time and place to break from that, to either help them with something else they may be moving on to, or just giving them a break from the monotony, which again is not a word I want to use, but
Yeah.
the just the structure of how we go about it every single day.
For coaches out there that may not run a free flowing offense where we really want our players to be less connected from us and more connected to each other on the floor and what they're doing and what they're seeing. Maybe this is a coach that runs a lot of plays. Would it be to me? It would seem to be harder to have skill development be a huge part of what you do if you're running a ton of actions and plays that are for something specific every single time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think probably the biggest place where that would be hard is in shooting drills. Like a lot of our shooting drills are drive, move, kick, shot. If you're a team that runs a lot of set plays, all of your shooting drills probably should be ending with the actions that lead to scores. The issue is there may only be one player that's going to get those touches. And so I think that's probably the benefit, again, of how we're able to see. I think our players improve skill wise, not just because we spend time on it, but also because our offense and how we play, both in practices and games, it allows them to develop their skills as well because they're using them.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.